Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bella Ralston, and I am your instructor for today and would like to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It does really make such a big difference, you joining us live. And if you're watching this on a replay, we hope that you can join us next time. But to everyone who's here today, hello and happy afternoon. Happy Wednesday afternoon. I should add the Wednesday. I'm super excited. The last 3 weeks we have been checking out the brand new kits for Faber-Castell, and today is the last kit that I have designed for them. And we are looking at the Galaxy lettering kit. And this is what we're going to be doing today. We'll do some fun brush alpha. All right. So this is the Galaxy lettering. And like the same as the bounce lettering, you will get a workbook inside this one, but let's look at what you're going to get inside. I know this isn't available yet at Michael's, but it will be very, very soon. So you'll get your regular HB pencil. You will get a black Goldfaber Aqua dual markers. You will get my favorite gelatos. You get 3 different gelatos in here, an eraser, and a brush pen. And you also get 2 fun stickers inside. And we're going to look at that real quick. So this is that. Michael should get this very soon, I promise. So hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. How's everybody doing today? Hello, Jen. Hi, Christy. Hi, Mariana. Hello, Laura. Hello. I don't have the exact dates, but I think they're having some issues with some shipping, but the last words that I've received was they should have it very, very soon. I'm so sorry to keep you hanging, but those are the words that I received. They should have it very soon. So hello there, Michelle. Inside the kit, you will find some information about the gelatos and how to use them. Also the Goldfaber Aqua. This is the brand new brush pens that Faber-Castell have. It has a dual as a brush tip and a 0.6 fine tip on the other end. So there's the 0.6. If you do a lot of journaling, bullet journaling, these markers are perfect for that because you get both. You have the brush pen, and then you also get a fine tip on the other, for your regular writing. And then you can use the brush tip for coloring, hand lettering, brush lettering, and all that fun stuff. So it's always fun. And then you get 3 colors of gelatos. This was so hard because I was limited to pick 3 colors, and I love so many colors, but this is what we have. We have the metallic blueberry, we have metallic mint, and then you get a pink sapphire, an iridescent. So of course, if you mix the pink and the blue, you get that purple shade. So it's fun because gelatos, you can mix it, you can blend it. And if some of you that are not new here, you know how much I love the gelato. So I cannot wait to get started with this gelatos. But today we're going to do some brush lettering. Last week we did the bounce lettering, and we used the Goldfaber dual marker directly to create our brush strokes. But today I will be using the brush pen, the water brush pen that is included in this kit. If you have any type of water brush in there or the regular watercolor brushes, that works too. But this one is on the like a larger size of a brush tip. And I apologize. I think it's stuck. I've been trying to open it, unscrew it, and put some water for the last 30 minutes. It did not budge. So I could not put water inside. So I'm just going to use some water here in a bowl. But usually you will fill it in with some water inside so you can bring it on the go, for travel, easy storage, also mess free and all that. So that's always fun. But if you can't open it, it's useless. You just have to still use some water on the bowl. Yep, I couldn't. My husband even tried with some pliers. It did not tear open. Okay, so let's look at the workbook in here. Like what I said, I have included some simple, very easy demonstrations, how you can use a gelato, how you can blend it, apply it, You'll find that here in the workbook. And then what is a brush pen, how to hold your pen positions and handling is very important. And of course, the fundamental of brush lettering is two major strokes, which is the thin and the thick stroke. And then I've explained it here how you can attain your thin strokes would be thin or your up strokes. Every time you would write away from your body, like going up away from you, this is where you're going to apply light pressure, and this is going to be your thin stroke. And that's when you use the tip of the brush. And every time you would write towards you, this is where you're going to apply pressure and use the tip and the belly of the brush pen to create a much thicker stroke. And so we're going to do that later. All right. And inside the workbook as well, you will receive a lot of different projects in here, but you have your basic alphabet that you can practice here. And it comes with tracing paper. Okay, Lay, our brain is working 2 seconds delay. We have some tracing paper on top so you can practice, of course. And then there's the complete alphabet, and there's different type of alphabet that I included in here. So it's not just why is so bright. We're going to go change the settings. Here we go. So you get like thin alpha that you can practice. I've also included some bubble alpha lettering here, which is super adorable. You know, it's just different types that you can practice. The brush twist backwards, Maria said. I'm going to try that, Maria, okay? Oh my, it actually did. Thank you so much, Maria. Look at this. Look at this, guys. Look, look, look. Ta-da! Now we have my water brush is open. Okay, so I'm gonna go fill it in with water. It's okay. You guys can laugh with me. Here, we're gonna fill it in with water. You usually put it under the sink, my faucet. But here, we have water inside now. And it twists backwards. There we go. Yay, Maria saved the day. All right. Whew. I have to tell my husband that because we're going to laugh because 2 pliers and then 2 adults trying to open the one. It twists backwards, guys. Okay. So counterclockwise. Why didn't we try that? Common sense. It's not so common anymore. Here we go. So Jen said, thank you, Maria. My brushes were also stuck. There we go. Wow. We are done for today, guys. We have learned how to unscrew a water brush. All right. So since we are working with water, we need some watercolor paper or a mixed media paper. But to just practice, you know, I always say, if you're not going to finish a whole project and we're just going to finish a lot of strokes, you know, thin and the thick strokes, get a copy paper. I know it's not going to hold much water, but to just practice the thin and thick, I think it's going to work. But if you're going to work on a project where you do a lot of blendings and all that, then it's really important to have a paper that can hold moisture. A mixed media journal or a watercolor journal works well. Okay. All right. Yeah, I know, Kelly. Whew, didn't we need that giggle today? Oh my goodness. And then aside from the letters that is included in the kit, there's also like different projects, finished lettering that you can trace, you can copy. I have some words, extra words in here that you can, you know, copy first and try on your own so you can really practice it. And then here, I really encourage being playful with your letters, especially when it comes to print lettering. I think even when with the bounce lettering that we did last week, I have encouraged you guys to play around with the sizes of the height of your letters, the width of your letters. And that's how the bounce lettering is generally is just going against the the basic rule of calligraphy. But the bounce lettering is when you're just really being playful. And so when it comes to print lettering too, I really do encourage you to play around with that as well, because I have shown like different examples here where you can mix and match your small letters and capital letters to add more character to your print lettering, if that makes sense. And I think it's just, I don't know if it's a personality thing where for some reason I have noticed that when I'm writing, even just regular handwriting, I am so inconsistent when it comes to my letters. Sometimes I would put in like a capital letter E in the middle of a word or a capital L, but I don't know if it's just, it became a habit, just, it just became a character of my letters. But the more the more I notice it, it's kind of like, is it an issue? But I think it's just, I really enjoyed that visual. I love seeing it where it's just playful. All right, then you see, I will teach you how to make embellishments, and throughout the month, hopefully Michael's will carry it very soon. Then we can go through some of the projects that are available in the workbook, and then we can practice that as well. So we have some sample doodles, sample letterings. I finished this one. Basically, it's just a plain like this, but I did finish it using some gelatos, kind of like traced over this page right here. It turned out super well. I used the gelatos in here. Look at that, so pretty. And then you get 2 stickers. It's so adorable, but of course, galaxy themed ones that are my little doodles turn into stickers. So it's a great gift for yourself or for your loved ones, for kids, or the young at heart like us. All right, so here we go. For the brush lettering that we're going to do today, you need like an extra dish like this, or if you have any plastic surface, silicone, that will work, because we're not going to be using the brush pen directly, like what I said. But now we're working water brush is what I'll be using. So I'm using this dish. I found it for $3 somewhere, but it's so cute. It's just a hard dish. So that's what we're going to do. You need a non-porous surface. I'm just going to apply my water brush. The Goldfaber, it is a water-based. And so if you add a little bit of water, if you have some water spray like that, you can use it as a watercolor. You use your water brush like this, and we're going to apply it like a regular watercolor. Ooh, this is my journal. Lots of stuff in here. Okay, so like what I've mentioned, brush lettering is all about the thin and thick strokes. So when you think of, I'm going to clean that out for a little bit and just talk. When you think of brush lettering and the brush pen, I fell in love with it. It's just my favorite, even with coloring, doodling, lettering. I love brush pens. So brush markers are the same way. They're a fabulous tool because it allows you to create variety of strokes from the thin and thick. But the pen doesn't do that by itself. It is all about you. It is all about the pressure that you apply when you are writing or coloring with it. So if I want to create a thin stroke, I would concentrate on using the very tip of the brush, and I would apply very light pressure. So I've mentioned that every time you would write away from you or your upstroke, this is your upstroke, this is when you use the tip of the brush, and this is where you concentrate on really applying very light pressure. I have to sneeze. We have a lot of giggles today. I apologize. What is going on? Okay, I am good now. And then for your thick stroke, or this is your downstroke, so every time you would write towards your body, this is where you're going to use the tip and the belly. And how to achieve that is by changing the position of your brush pen. So if it's directly upside down like this, to enable the brush pen to really get a wide stroke, to use the full potential of the brush pen, you have to change the way you hold it. So I'm going to use the tip and the belly, and notice how thin and thick by using just one brush pen, right? So if I do a thin going up, notice it, and then I'm going to go down. I'm going to change the way I would hold it, go sideways, relatively 45-degree angled. And so I was able to use that belly of the brush pen by just changing the position, the way I handle while I'm writing. So it's the same principle with the brush, water brush. But the thing with the water brush is you have to think about that it's more flexible. So I'm already having trouble with my thin strokes or the light pressure because I personally write really heavy. So I really think of that. I'm more mindful when I'm using a very flexible water brush like this. So the more I'm like, okay, really light, but doing the downstroke or the heavy pressure, it takes less effort from me because I know it's more flexible than my regular water or regular brush pen. So let's do that again. Use the tip and then add some pressure to create the thick strokes going down. I'm going to do that thin stroke or light, heavy, going down. All right. I'm going to check out my comments. You know what? I really love that comment. It really is. When it comes to lettering and handwriting, I truly do agree with that one. Um, So when it comes to brush lettering, there's many different ways. It doesn't mean that you only have to write beautiful scripts when you're using your water brush. That's not true. And that's what we're going to do today is play around with just doing brush lettering, still having the thin and thick, but we're going to do print lettering. And same principle applies. Thin going up, thick going down, light going up, thick going down, or heavy going down. All right. So I know it's like sometimes, remember when I first getting started, when I was just first getting started practicing brush lettering, it was just over my head over and over, just like light going up, thin, heavy going down, thick, light going up, thin, thick going down, heavy. So it's like that. So if we're going to do print lettering, the same principle, whether you're writing a script or print letters. So if I'm going to do A, the same principle, I will go light going up and I will go heavy going down, right? So that's my A. So B, still a downstroke. So I would apply pressure. And then every time you would write horizontal, like your crossbars, or you're doing the belly of the B or the C or the D and P, it goes light as well. So does that make sense? So I'm going to do a D. This one is downstroke. So I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure. And then I'm going sideways. So this one, you're going to use the tip of the brush, right? And then slowly apply some pressure. And then thin again, connecting those letters. All right, so I'm going to go get a different paper because this is wet and it's going all over. Grab my piece in here. Karen, look at what Karen said. Down, gravity, heavy. Makes so much sense. Karen, you're the best. Think gravity. So it's heavier going down. I will find a paper here. Here we go. Ah, that's so awesome, Karen. That's one way to remember that. Or it's like if you want to do what I did when I was first starting, it's going down for real. That song was stuck in my head because every time I would do downstroke, I'm like, it's going down for real. I know, and that's when I'm going to apply some heavy pressure. All right, here we go. We're going to write our letters. I personally, this is the way I write my letters. I use the Fudenoske medium. So even I'm using the flexible nib of the Pit Artist pen. I do this. It's just almost became just a second skin to me. Like I really go light going up and then heavy going down. Even with my doodles, because I love the kawaii doodles and the way I do my doodles are like comic. So even with that, the gravity heavy goes down and then I go light every time I would go up. That's a good practice. It's just the more you do it, the more you'll get it. All right, so let's start with our alphabet. And I'm going to do letter A. Now, when I do the fun brush alpha, it's kind of like the way I treat it is the way I do my doodles. I don't create some pointy strokes. So there's not a lot of sharp things in here. So even when I'm going, for example, when I do the letter A, I don't go up and then down. So I try to avoid anything. The more you make it a little curvy, it really does add character to it. But then again, that is my personal that decision. That's what I like personally. And so that's my um to me what is more pleasing, more appealing. But if you feel like your letter A, you like this much better, please continue to do so. And notice how I'm using the same brush pen here, but look at all the weight of our downstroke or heavy strokes in here. The weight or the thickness just varies on how much pressure I apply going down. This one, you can still get a not so thick, not so big. People often think just because they see me writing is like, oh, I cannot use the brush pen because I don't like to write big. But that's not necessarily true. You can still write really small but still create the thin and thick by changing the pressure when you are using it. You can still write small. So I'm going to write A like that. And I can even go much smaller than that. So just change the size, but concentrate on the pressure that you're applying when you do your upstroke and your downstroke, right? So you can go as thick as that and really bend and use the belly of the brush. That's super duper thick. And that one. So if we're going to do the script, but letter A, still the same principle. Heavy going down, light going up. Karen said. Mary said, your voice is in my head to remind her. I hope it's a good voice, Mary. It's not so scary. Mary, don't forget, heavy going down. I always was so sweet. Mary, don't forget, heavy going down. Okay. So practice because we all have different pressure that we apply. And I think that's where the inconsistency happens is that your your light and heavy it's either you're not going heavy enough or you're not going light enough. Does that make sense? Because I think that's where the problem was for me was that I didn't see the difference from the thin and thick. I would show you an example. This one you can still see. I mean, you can see the difference from the thin and thick. But when I was just first getting started, I think what was happening was that my thin was also super thick just because I was not mindful enough with the amount of pressure I'm applying when I'm going up. So going up is always a struggle because I write so heavy. But with practice and consistency and with a little voice inside your head, you can do this. I think if you're if you have a heavy pressure like me, I think you're going to much rather use the brush pen than a water brush. But then it's not always true. in the beginning, I thought that was it. Maybe if I just use directly the brush pen and not use the water brush, um, it's much better for me, but it really isn't. It's just no matter what your tool is, it doesn't matter if you're using a smaller brush pen like the Pit Artist pen, or using a water brush pen, or you're using the Goldfaber Aqua. This one has a thinner brush. I think that if you're not going to be mindful with the amount of pressure you're applying, you're not going to see a change. So try to go as light as you can and then as heavy as you can. Let's try that. So I'm going to go as light as I can here and go really concentrate on that tip. And I'm going to apply as much pressure as I can going down. There we go. Now you can really see the difference from my thin and my thick.
Hey, Lay, can you also show us again, whenever you get a second, the script A?
Yes, absolutely. Aang said the hand letterer and haunted voice over actor. I'm not sure if that's a compliment, Aang. I'm going to take that as a compliment. All right, let's do the script again. Okay, I'm going to stop talking too much and show you the letters. I get excited. I apologize. Here we go. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the alpha, and then I'm going to do the print. Go light. And it doesn't matter sometimes if you cannot complete the whole stroke. It's okay. Just pause. No one's going to tell you that you're doing it wrong. And then horizontal thin as well. So that's our script A. Oh, okay, thank you. And then our fun script like that. And then like this. All right. And then we'll do the letter B. So downstroke, heavy. Now we're going to go lift this up a little bit and go concentrate on the tip of the brush to go light like this. And then from here, we'll write the belly, B. And then what I do if I didn't get it right the first time, or the amount of thickness, the width of my stroke, I just simply go back in there and then just kind of correct it. Just like that. And then heavy going down, light, like this, right? And then we go letter C. So the way I like to do my letters, if I want to make them look a little fancy, but they're really not that traditional script like a calligraphy, what I like to do is just kind of add like little tiny strokes, extending the letters on the side to make it look a bit more fancier. I think some people like to call it like curly letters, something like that. Now, be careful with your letter C, like what I did in here. So if and when you're writing your letters or you're drawing your letters, just be careful that it's legible. And this can easily be a letter E also. So next time I would do this, I would correct myself and make this one not overly extended like that. So I will not, because look, this one is like super reaching into the middle. So that can look like a letter E also, right? So just be mindful of those little things. And then same with the small C, just simple like that. Sometimes I go back and forth. Sometimes I would always say I prefer just writing with a brush pen directly, but then there are moments like this where I'm using the water brush that didn't want to open earlier. Um I'm like, "Oh, I really love it because I really love how flexible it is, that I don't have to be super mindful and careful when I'm doing the thin stroke. because knowing that I can just really make it more thicker than usual to see the variation from the thin and thick. Does that make sense? All right, so for the letter D, look at this. Look how different that. Oh, wow, that is not bad. That's not good. I'm going to do it again because I wanted to show the difference of this thickness of the letter B from this thickness of that letter D. Crazy how much pressure I change. If I get comfortable enough, I feel like, look at this. When I'm super comfortable, I'm not minding my pressure. I'm just like writing all over. Look at the difference. There's no difference from the thin and the thick. So you really have to pay attention and just be mindful. And also, when you're mindful, when you're doing your lettering, what happens is that you are just in the press, you're just in the present. You're enjoying, you're in the moment. But when you're just writing like this, and like, okay, sure, you don't see much difference of that variety of strokes. I'm going to move this one around.
Hey, Lay, Mariana is wondering if you can use a fine tip to make faux calligraphy.
You know what? Yes, you can. But because this is, if you can see that there's a slight difference from the tip of that fine tip. Hey, there's a lot of tip in here. It is not flexible though. So it's not like you're going to apply pressure and then you're going to get the thickness. I don't think that's the case. I think what happens is the angle of how you use your brush pen, and that's how you're able to get a slight difference from your thin and your thick. Does that make sense? So it's not like applying pressure because the brush pen is flexible. With this pen, it's going to be, you're going to get that thin and thick by changing the angle of how you use your brush pen. So let's try it. I'm going to write my name. So thin, I'm going to, or upstroke, I'm going to use the very tip of that fine tip. And for the thickness, I will apply slight pressure, but also notice how I'm adjusting the angle of the way I use my pen. So I apply a little bit of pressure because there's a little bit of flex to it that you can get it. But I don't think the difference is that super big and noticeable, but it's there. So let's try it again. I can zoom that in more. So using the tip for the upstroke, and then I'm changing my angle and apply a little bit of pressure like this, and then E. So because of that little bit of flex, that little bit of flex is more than enough to really get that thin and thick. So Maria said, is it very difficult for lefties? Because I'm having difficulty getting the pressure correct. You know, Maria, I've tried learning how to write with my left, and I've tried it. It's not easy. So I feel you. I'm going to embarrass myself again. This is I can't. I really can't. So if I'm righty, right, I would angle it to the left. So now if I'm a lefty, I would angle it to the right. Why am I doing this? I can't. But I don't think it's the opposite though. I feel like you still have to do your upstroke light and then your heavy stroke going down. I'm going to use the brush pen so we can make sense of this one. So you're dragging it to here. So I'm going to do L. Oh God, this is hard. that is hard. But I think you still have to do the downstroke, but I understand it's just how you would do it. Let's say I'm going to go even with just an alpha. Let's say L, right? And then go light. Wow. This is, you know what, guys? I'm going to have to learn this for you. I honestly think, Maria, it's still the same principle. Really going down, you have to apply your pressure unless you do the opposite, I suppose. But then it's not gonna look the same. Whoa, it's so hard. I am gonna force my daughter to learn brush lettering. She's a lefty. And she's like, I don't know how you do that, mom. She's 22 now, but I think it's the same principle, darling. It's just really my brain is working from here to here, but downstroke will still be heavy and then upstroke will still be light. It's just really getting the hang of it. Does that make sense? It's super hard. So whether you're a lefty or you're a righty, it's going to be difficult practice. All right, I'm gonna grab some more of that ink and then we're gonna continue this. So we're in the why do I keep doing that? We're gonna do letter D. Can you please explain the basics for the small a again? The small a is really it's like an oval. So an oval, I mean, is a very good stroke to practice. So think of it this way, you're making a letter O, okay? So when you think a letter O is a good practice because this is where you can really practice your thin and thick. See? So I started with almost like half the letter. I don't start on the top. I didn't start in the center. I started here on half of the right stroke. So I go up with my light. I go around and bend my brush pen and then lift it and then use the tip to create the thin stroke to continue it. Okay, when I'm doing it slow, I think I mess up even more. So I'm going to do it fast. Okay, go light, heavy, go light again, and lift and use the tip of the brush to create that. And then to make it a letter A, you just add a thick stroke and a thin stroke going up. So it's the same principle. Thin, heavy going down, thin going up, heavy going down. Okay. Yeah, it was a natural. Sorry, guys. I tried. I really tried. Okay, so let's do the letter D. Okay. So I'll start with this. I'm gonna add my belly like that. And I'm doing just a fun brush, alpha, just like that. And so I'm doing a small D, kind of like starting with the oval, and then just a thick stroke going down. And then letter E, that. So this is one thing that I would like to remind you today, that I didn't start it with this, but I usually start my classes with reminding everyone that when you're doing hand lettering, you're actually not writing, you are drawing. This is you drawing the letters. And the more you understand the basic strokes are included in the workbook in the bounce lettering kit. But the basic stroke is so important because those are the fundamentals to create your letters. And even with the letter D, if you want to do it simple without the fanciness, it's really like what we did with a small letter D was an oval and then a thick stroke, a downstroke going down, right? So for the letter E2, you're like creating like a small oval and then you're adding another stroke going up. So it's really important to remember and to understand that you have to practice one stroke at a time to create the letters because those basic strokes, because your letters are just composed of basic strokes and then your word is composed of basic letters. So we have to remember that we have to draw one stroke at a time. So if you've seen me, when I did the letter E, I stopped in the middle and then I did it again. So you don't have to complete the whole letter in one stroke or in one go. Let's do that in a letter F. So I'm going to start with the top of the letter S, and I go pause and lift my pen, and then I go down again. And if you need to lift and pause here to change the way you hold your brush pen, whether you're using the brush tip or the belly, I do that. That's when I kind of switch around and move around my pen in my fingers in my hand. See? So it's kind of like always moving around. So the way I hold it is like this. So I go belly, and then I switch, pause, and flip it again to kind of get that position of the brush tip, and like this, right? So we'll do a small F, F, so I don't do it like every single time I would pause, but if you pay attention to my hands, you're going to see that I do that quite a lot too. But it's not constant, and it's not every single time that I pause, like that I said, but I do it a lot. So I use the tip and the belly like this, and then you go do that. And I also do notice myself, my letters are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know why, guys. I just write so big. So the oval, and then I continue it with my other stroke. So one stroke at a time, right? All right, I'm going to be mindful of my size because it's getting bigger. I think I got a question about how moist my water brush is. I think there's a pretty good consistency of the water brush here. The way it spills out water, it's very controlled. So I never feel the need to squeeze it in or, try to get more. It's just whatever the water brush is spilling out is moist enough for me. Um, and then also I notice if my the saturation or the opacity of the ink is very faded, then it means like I have too much water in the brush. So that's just kind of like how I gauge the consistency of water and ink. So the ratio between the ink and the water. But some people like it where it's really faded, where it really does have the watercolor effect. Then you want to use more water, so just kind of like depends on how you want it. Right. G, do H, 2 downstroke, and then a horizontal line like that. And then again, just 2 downstrokes. I'm going to put it on top. Today, my favorite is the water brush. Ask me tomorrow, I'm going to say the pen directly. HI. The I and the J really does look a whole lot. Like this. HI. The galaxy lettering, the reason why it's called galaxy lettering is the colors of the gelatos included, and also the theme of the words and the sample projects are galaxy related. but I don't think there's really anything as such a thing as galaxy lettering. It's just a theme that's what the kit is all about, and the colors of the gelatos being used in here. So to me, if you want to make your brush lettering kind of look like a galaxy lettering, the way you can do that is to maybe add stars. If you're completing a word, the word galaxy, I would add some embellishments. It's all about the embellishments that you're going to use in your project or in your artwork. So that's letter J. I hope that makes sense. Like this. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hold on, let's do that. So gelatos are water-based, but it's creamy pigment. It looks like a lipstick, right? So we've done a lot of projects using the gelatos. We did a lot of craft projects, lettering, journaling, and all that. So it does blend with water. So it kind of works like a watercolor. It doesn't have full saturation like what you're going to get with the um, water-based dye inks. Now, these are going to be a bit more less opaque and less saturated. So how I would normally use my gelatos would be, I have projects in here where I use gelatos. Those backgrounds, I use gelatos in here and all that. So there's many different ways, although we cannot get all that and learn all that today. Basic is applying it directly like a crayon. Ooh, that is bright. Like this. That's how you blend it. Applying directly. You can also use baby wipes, like what I have in here. So I'm going to apply the gelatos in there, like that. Can apply it, smudging it together. Or you can apply, or you can blend it, with some baby wipes. Applying light pressure to really spread it. Basically, the baby wipes is just a more moist, but you're picking up some of that colors too. Does that make sense? So if you want a more concentrated, I would apply it with directly into the page, and then with the moist finger, use the baby wipes, just kind of moisten your finger in there so you have a little bit of moisture, and then start blending. I love creating backgrounds using the gelatos. Now for lettering, you can use them also just like how you would use a regular watercolor. What I would do, if you have a watercolor paper, you can apply the gelatos in the watercolor paper because a little bit of texture in there. You can pick up some of the colors, or you can do like what I'm doing right now is picking it up directly from that gelatos. And you can use your water brush to create your beautiful brush lettering like that. I love it. So yeah, we're going to do that and create a project, a galaxy themed more lettering, but we have to practice our letters first. So we can finish a project using the gelatos as a background and then adding some brush lettering using our Goldfaber Aqua dual markers. All right, so let's J, because we're already running out of time, because time be our friend. J, now K. And then lift and use that tip. All right. Okay. Like that. Then letter L. like this. You're welcome, Melanie. I know. I was the same way. When I first saw the gelatos, I'm like, what are those? How do you use them? If you don't really, if you've never seen them being used, it's a little bit overwhelming. Are those crayons? Are those watercolors? But the thing is, there's so many different ways that you can use the gelatos. So many. I love using it for my mixed media projects and my journals. It's fabulous. They're a fabulous tool. Letter L. Look at this. I'm going to have to pause on that one and then bring it down and then use the tip. And then this way here, you can see it's imperfect. So all I got to do is go back in there. Just kind of add more stroke to add more width to that part for the letter L. So again, you don't have to get it perfectly the first time around. You can just go back in there and add more weight to your strokes. Now, letter M. M, I love practicing letter M. This, you go get your downstroke, right? Oops. And then you go up, thin, thick, going down. Let's do that again. Thin going up, and then thick going down. And then pause there and then just lift it up again. Like that. So even with the smaller one, you go thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, thick. So even with the print one, I go up, light, heavy going down, light up, and then heavy going down. It's kind of looking weird. Yes, Lucy, practicing is the fun part, that because that is the process. And I think, I am guilty of that as well. It's like I forget why I do this sometimes, is because it's like sometimes it gets frustrating when I'm practicing like a different type of art. Let's say because I love the comic, the kawaii doodles and all that. Sometimes I like to dabble more realistic, so more of a realism. It's really frustrating. And so it's like, I'm not doing this anymore. So it's like it really is important to remind ourselves why we do these things, because it's fun, because it is something that we enjoy. And so if it's gets frustrating, it's okay to kind of like back away for a little bit and then go back in again with a fresh mind. All right, so letter M. Now we do a letter N. Kind of like my letter M too, like that. I'll do N like this. Or sometimes I actually like to use with the letter N is like, it's the small n, but just bigger, to use it for a capital, just like that. All right, letter O. Again, practice your letter O because it is such a good letter to practice for that thin and thick. Notice again, I want you to really think about this, because when I was first practicing my letter O, I start in the middle. So I used to start here in the middle and go down like that. So I noticed that when I start almost like half of the right stroke, that thin, it goes much better for me. It's kind of like a letter C already. And I just lift it up like that. So practice that. I mean, I'm not saying that it might, work the same way for you, but you might want to practice it and see. It might work. So it's kind of like writing a letter C instead of just half of the letter O here on top and then like this. So start with the thought of like writing a letter C already, half of that, and then complete it and then just bring it up, right? So the way I play around with my letter O, I kind of showed this last week. Sometimes I go really swoop it down, or I go just small over here and like that. And then just small O with print, as simple as that. Letter P. I started so big again. My goodness. Letter P. I think the moment you will know when your water brush is not moist enough is that when it gets hard to drag the brush, especially when you're doing your downstroke. So when it's getting more difficult to move around and drag your brush, that means you need a little bit more water in there. So when you see that dry strokes, just add a little bit more water. So I want you to notice all these letter P's, because not just we're playing around with the stroke, we're also playing around with the angle of the letters. Some are more slanted, some are more straight up. So that's another way that you can play around with adding characters, adding more character to your letter. So obviously, when you want to use the brush pen, you don't always have to keep the thought in mind of thick going down or thin going up. Maybe you can just practice your thin stroke or light pressure all the way. Just try to practice with really thin strokes. This is one way to practice um, getting lighter. So, getting a more consistent handle when it comes to your thin strokes. So maybe practice that. Or if you are struggling with the heavy stroke, then maybe just try all thick strokes, at one time. All right, so letter P, L, M, N, O, P, Q. Here we go. Q. So letter Q is kind of like a letter O. So I just started with that almost letter C to do my oval. And then I just play around with my little queen tail like that. Oh, we can do the fancy letter Q. So notice how sometimes I like to make my end strokes thicker than everything else. That's one way that I like to do it. So even if it's going up, sometimes I still add a little bit of width in that very end, kind of just like this there. So I think it just makes it a bit more fancy. Again, just me. All right, so another oval, simple Q. With this one, the way I would play around with this, I would maybe make it longer or just make it short. It's just different. And just small Q, just like this. Nothing really special. Just like that. L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, do R. Like this. Next month, we are going to practice combining and making words. So because when we practice letters, each letter like this, it is much easier. But when we start connecting these letters to compose a word, then that's when it becomes a little frustrating because of the connecting strokes that we use. And now we're going to tackle that next month, sometime in August. So I'm really looking forward to that class as well. Oh, this month. I'm sorry, it's August already. We're in August. What? R. And now we're going to do, so with the R, if you missed last week's class, the way I would like to play around with my strokes is over here. Sometimes I would make the loop here super big, like that. Actually, that's not super big. I would make it so much more bigger than that sometimes, like this. Or there's no loop at all. Just a straight line like this. All right. So as long as they can read it that it's a letter R, you're okay. Just play around with it. So just a plain alpha letter R, just simple. If I would play around with that, maybe the how big or how small the belly of that R is going to be. Do I bring it down there? Or to go bring it all the way up? All right, so letter S. I love letter S too. To practice. It's that, to me, I struggled the most. Thin to thick is okay. Then the struggle comes in when I go transition from that heavy to thin again. It's much easier for me to go from light to heavy than go heavy to light. How about you? Which one do you find more challenging? Because to me, that's where it is. Like for example, with the letter S, notice how I kind of like paused a little bit in here, and then being more mindful of I really gonna go light to create that thin stroke in there. That's a bit of a struggle there. So let's try that again, shall we? I like to point out my limitations because I understand where that struggle is, especially in the beginning when I was practicing. I didn't realize how frustrating it can get, but at the same time, so rewarding. And that is why it is important to keep a journal. I know I say this a lot. If you were a long time student, you know that I like to say keep a journal, keep a sketchbook that you can really see your progress. You can track your own progress and not compare your progress to everybody else's, because you don't know if they're in chapter 92 and you're still in your chapter, 3. So keep a sketchbook because that's the only way that you can really track your own progress. So S, like that. So knowing when to kind of pause is also going to help you a lot. So the way I mentioned that from the thin to heavy is easy and the thick to light is much of a struggle. So I kind of pause in here and it's okay. You're just going to bring it up again and then go much lighter. Right. So letter S. We're going to do letter T. Like that. I don't do too much fancy things in the T, but that crossbar is going to be really fun to play around with that. Now, I know we're just in the beginning process of our practice with brush lettering, but there's going to come a point in time where we're going to start adding flourishes. And so I hope you keep practicing. So when we get to the point and part where we're going to do our flourishes and adding more fancy things in our brush lettering, you'll be ready for that. So letter T, just regular. Crossbar is thinner, like that. So to add character, I just kind of play around. Do you want to put it in the middle? Do you want to put it where it has a little bit of this extra hearing? And just like that. But normally I would just do like this and then just add fancy flourishes like this. Now letter U, it's like our understroke, one of the basic strokes that you should really practice because it's going to help you with that thick and thin. So because thick going up and then you pause in there and you go thin. And that's where my struggle is, from here to go light. Whoo, I have to go pause in there and then bring it up and then bring it down again with a much heavier pressure. But even with the print, just same, so practice with that heavy and then light going up. If I'm not mindful, you're going to see here where there's not a whole lot of difference from that thick and thin, just because I wasn't going light enough. Change papers. Letter U, V. V is a good one too, because you can go thick, go light, but the understroke is a better letter, or the letter U is a better letter to practice, just because you want to do it with a smooth transition, because the letter V you can pause in the middle, but with the letter U, when you practice it, you want to really have that consistent one stroke, so because that's the whole point, is to practice that transition from that thick to thin. So like this, right? So try to make it at one stroke and not pause like the letter V. So even when you're doing the letter U, you can go pause, but try to finish it as one stroke, that whole letter U. So letter V, maybe add a little bit of flourish in here and go bring it up. I'll bring it down, bring it up, and then just connect.
Hey, Leigh, I know we're running a little bit over time, but a quick question is this the only way to use the water brush with the gelatos and the Derwent markers?
I'm not sure I understand. No, you can use the water brush directly itself like a pen. Is that the question? UV. Not sure if I answered that question. W. Robin said that she's motivated. I hope so. I know we're over time now, but I really want to finish these letters. So just a couple more minutes here. Oh, no, no, no. You can absolutely use the water brush like a regular watercoloring. I think I understand the question now. Yeah, use it for coloring, use it with watercolors, use it with the Faber-Castell, the Albert Dürer pencils to blend them and to color with them. So it's basically just a regular watercolor brush. It just so happened that the water is already inside the barrel. So it just makes it more where you don't have to keep dipping in the bowl of water. So makes it more efficient, I suppose. W. Just like that. So W is kind of like the U. So you do it twice. So it's much better. UVW. And then X. Yes, I still don't like the letter X. It seems like it's super hard to do. So you can just do it as simple as downstroke heavy and then upstroke going light. The way I did this was kind of like, you can just do it this simple like this. Extend it that, bring it down, lift it up, and then just pure thin stroke all the way up like that. X. So even with just a small X, I would do the same thing. And then Y. Y is kind of like another of the understroke. So the more you practice with this, really, the more you're going to notice like it's really using the basic strokes over and over again to compose these beautiful letters, the alphabet. Now, the way I play around with the Y is the size of my loops. Sometimes I make it small like this, or sometimes I make it big like that. And for just a fun Galaxy Alpha, it's just like that. Sometimes I do this, but barely. I would use it kind of like a letter U, like this, and just add the base. Now letter Z, you can keep it simple like this, downstroke, horizontal, and then loop it again.
You're going off
Oops,
screen just a little
sorry.
bit. Yeah.
Sorry. Let's try that again. So like this, and then bring it down with a downstroke, and then horizontal. So you notice this is a perfect example of one stroke at a time to draw that letter Z. We're kind of like writing a number 3, but bringing this one down like a loop of the letter Y. It's like that. Like this. But that's it. We finished it. Our alphabet. We can add the crossbar in there too if you'd like. There we go. So even when you're doing like simple letterings, if you still struggle with the script and you just want to stay with the print letters, that's okay. As long as you're practicing with your water brush or the brush pens that you are using, just make sure that you really practice with the amount of pressure you're applying because it's all about the pressure. Do not be like me. When I bought my first brush pen, I thought like, here it is. I have my brush pen. My lettering is going to look fabulous. And then I use it. I'm like, why isn't it doing it? So it's all about the pressure. Like what Karen said, heavy going down is the gravity. So light going up. All right. So I hope that this class was so fun and inspiring. I know that we've exceeded our time, but I couldn't leave you hanging like that. We thank everybody for being here with us. It's always a pleasure helping you and teaching you and inspiring you to stay more creative in your life because there's so many noise already in the outside world. So I hope you'll keep going, keep at it, stay creative, and stay happy. Until next week, same time, Wednesday at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. Let's see each other in the classroom again. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you soon. Bye.